camera, but there is some controversy as we go to break. We have to take a time out. The Spanish Harlem Mona Lisa is about you, but you're from Queens. There's controversy in that song.
You know, when he wrote it, he said that he only put that in because it
doesn't hum. It doesn't hum.
my Queens Mona Lisa just didn't work so well.
By the way, stick with this guy. He's going to be very successful. Trust me on this. Marisol Thomas, thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Pleasure.
Wow, hey, coming up next, some familiar faces going back to the fall TV scene. You'll find out if they're any good, especially that guy. He better be good. All the other guys failed. Connie Sullivan.
Welcome back to Fox News. We have a very tragic alert for you right now. An incredible plane crash into the World Trade Center here at the lower tip of Manhattan.
It's believed the 737 has crashed into. There's speculation at this point, but at least 3 floors taken out, crashed into the side of the building. Joining us right now, one of the producers with Fox Report, Owen Mugen on the scene. Owen, what do you know? What do you see? Where are you?
Yeah, Brian, I'm on the roof of my building, which is about 5 blocks to the south of the World Trade Center. I'm looking right now at the World Trade Center. There's a massive gaping hole on the second tower. It's about 15 stories from the roof. It's just unbelievable to look at. There's a massive hole.
It looks like something out of a movie. There is a huge hole in the side of tower number 1.
Tower 1.
Owen, your apartment is just a few blocks from it. Did you hear anything?
I was lying in bed. All of a sudden I heard what sounded like a plane or something coming extremely low, and then we just heard this shattering explosion. I ran up to the roof and confronted by this horror. There's a gaping hole. I can see the south face, and there are flames. There are papers flying out of the windows, black flames. There are flames coming out of multiple floors.
Did it sound like there is one report on one news channel here in New York City that perhaps it was a jet, perhaps a 737. When you heard the noise, did it sound like a prop job or a jet?
It sounded like a jet, but from where I was, I just couldn't tell. All I know is that there was something flying through the air, and then this massive impact. Whether it was a jet, I just don't know.
Listening to you right now, I hear a lot of sirens. Is that what you're hearing right now? I mean,
yeah, I'm going to move to the front of my, which will. Yeah, you can just see it right now. You can see emergency vehicles tearing south from the West Side Highway, heading towards the scene. There are tons of people in the streets. There are papers, things fluttering out. I can't see any evidence of what it was that could have crashed. All I can see is just this massive, gaping hole with tons of black smoke falling out of the building.
Owen, we have a satellite picture right now. There. That is it.
A live picture. As you can see, Edie, this is different. This is a different perspective than we saw earlier. The plane obviously went in on one side and came out the other. There's debris all over the ground
broke
down
through
below.
On part.
Yeah, exactly. And as you can see, it affects perhaps 10 floors of the World Trade Center building. It is over 100 stories tall. It is the tallest structure in New York City. It is near the flight path for Newark.
Right. And many times, whenever people for Newark, Kennedy, or LaGuardia, when those planes are put into rotation as they're waiting for landing, they circle around this area, which is right near the Statue of Liberty. It is almost 9 o'clock here on the East Coast, and let me tell you, folks are in that building early, and without a doubt, there are many people who were impacted by this.
It's speculated that the plane is as big as a 737. It looked originally like it just hit 3 floors. As I see from this angle, it seems like more than 3 floors, and perhaps what's most disturbing, Edie, I think, is the time of day. This time of morning is when people pour into that building, and it's usually next to full.
We've got to also remember, this is near the financial district on the tip of Manhattan. There are so many people at this hour who are in that neighborhood. And aside from the people who are in the building, remember, this is a huge structure, 10.5 million square feet the World Trade Centers take up. And as you can see, for perspective, there goes a helicopter right by it. And it obviously impacted one side and wound up affecting perhaps the other side. We do know there is debris all over the floor, down the pavement down below, and crews are, they've got all the police and the fire department and the emergency technicians are headed to that area. This is horrible.
And also, when you think about what happened to the World Trade Center before, with the bombing there and the chaos that surrounded it, this is a much different challenge, right, just as grave.
And also, from one of our perspectives, we can see that not only are there gaping holes, but debris continues to fall down below at this hour. As you can see, this is a story of enormous magnitude.
Oh, my gosh.
And we will have all the latest right here on Fox News. Right now, let's hand it over.
For a pilot to slam into a building today if it wasn't intentional.
Put his head down in the cockpit instead of looking where he was going, and it depends also on the angle of the sun. For example, was he flying east when he hit? I don't know because I can't see the pictures.
Even for light planes, there is a traffic river not very far from there.
Oh, yes. The buildings are close to the river. And furthermore, if you've got three major airports in the area, LaGuardia, Newark, and JFK, and it's the busiest air corridor in the world from that point of view. He could have been confused.
And there are some height limitations. In other words, the planes that fly by there, I'm talking about personal aircraft, light aircraft, and even some, I guess, commercial aircraft. I know that I've returned to the city from time to time and come in in your view, this could have been an accident. We're not necessarily talking about a deliberate act here.
I wouldn't think so immediately at all. You've got to find out why he crashed, and obviously if it's a deliberate terrorist act, then there'll be a message probably from somebody taking credit for it. But right now it sounds as though the early morning sun, we've had drivers in cars get blinded, by the sun. You could have aircraft trouble. So he could be distracted. There's a number of reasons why the aircraft...
Eyewitnesses are saying it was a small commuter plane. Again, these early reports are just coming in now from the wire services. A small commuter plane, apparently, hitting the side of the World Trade Center. Happened, just a few minutes ago, but you can see the smoke. The smoke tower is growing. There is quite a bit of flame inside the building. The two towers are home, at least during the day, to upwards of 50,000 workers in those 220 floors.
Right.
I am reminded of a couple of things that happened recently, Dr. Gross. Just within the last couple of weeks, in fact, there was a pilot who flew. There was another one. We just saw another one apparently go. Another plane just flew the second tower. This raises to be deliberate, folks.
Well, that would begin to say that.
On live television as a second plane flew into the second tower of the World Trade Center. Now, given what has been going on around the world, some of the key suspects come to mind. Osama bin Laden. What? Eric Shawn is with us. Eric, I know you have a lot of sources at the FBI and other agencies like that. What can you tell us?
Well, first, I apologize for being out of breath because I was walking down Fifth Avenue, which is close to our studios, and I heard a jet, perhaps a 737 or a small Airbus, flying low, unusually low over Fifth Avenue, making a right. I'm not going to say, I don't know, I don't have any reports on what type of plane hit the World Trade Center, but people looked up and it made a right toward the building. John, what we just saw, though, obviously, if that indeed was a second aircraft that hit the southern tower of the World Trade Center, that obviously raises the specter of an intentional terrorist attack here, if that is indeed what we are looking at. I don't know what the reports say of what type of plane hit the tower, but I did see a jet airliner that was fairly low. It was unusual, although not unusual in air traffic patterns, because airplanes that fly to LaGuardia often are vectored down south straight over Manhattan, but of course at an altitude that is far above the buildings clearly, and that the avenue, if you look down Fifth Avenue, oftentimes you see planes, especially the ones from the north, coming down before they vector on a left turn to go up into 1331 or 422, the two runways up at LaGuardia. But clearly this is tremendously disturbing if indeed that explosion that we just saw on television is indeed another airplane. This raises the possibility that is this an intentional attack, a terrorist attack. As we know, the World Trade Center was bombed in the garage back in the early 90s.
We're going to cut away from the live pictures for just a moment to replay what just happened. And I thought when it first happened, I thought it was a replay, but in fact we saw this live perhaps 2 minutes ago. Look at that. A jet plane, clearly a jet plane, a good-sized airplane, slamming into the second tower of the World Trade Center. This after a report of another plane slamming into the North Tower, both towers now in flames. We have reports of at least 6 people killed, 1,000 injured, and clearly those numbers are going to go up. Bill Stokes is on the phone with us. He is an eyewitness to what happened. Bill, we just saw the video of the plane hitting the second tower. What did you see?
Well, I got to correct you and say I wasn't exactly an eyewitness. However, I was an ear witness. I live on Thompson Street in the Village, which looks directly down to the two towers. I was sitting at my desk by the window here working, and an abnormally low-flying plane come right down the street practically, and then followed by a loud bang. People rushed from the apartments onto the street. I've never seen anything like it. Everybody's a little freaked out here.
With good reason.
And there's a sanitation worker that was picking up garbage that actually saw the plane fly down that street over Soho, and he saw it hit. And my question to him immediately was, thinking that this could be a missile, I said, was it a plane or was it a small missile? He said, no, it was definitely a plane, and it seemed like a large plane.
Well, we saw a large plane hit the second tower minutes after the first tower was engulfed in flames. We're going to look at it again. Look at the lower part of your screen. There is clearly a jet, a twin-engine jet, slamming into one side, and then the fireball, the debris raining out the far side of the south tower of the World Trade Center. Now, Erica, I am reminded again of what happened back in 1989. The intent of those terrorists back then was to actually tower, wasn't it?
Yes, and I would obviously think if anyone makes, it could be a 737 airliners. I think the question is, where does that airliner come from? Delta shuttle that goes from LaGuardia to New York. You've got theoretically indicate it would be a Delta shuttle. I'm not saying it is, folks. I don't want to alarm people. Also, Air Canada flies smaller Airbuses down from start to do right now is find out where these are there any more coming, and what can they do to intercept any others if there are. I imagine that there has got to be a ground hold right now at all the airports in the New York area, as well as a freeze in the air traffic center craft around the New York metropolitan area. And if there are any other airplanes coming, perhaps the Air National Guard or others will have to in the air. Maybe they've already scrambled at the moment as we that we've seen, sadly, horribly, what we've long feared and many have worried about and thought could never happen would be a terrorist attack, as we are witnessing right now. Not obviously the accident that happened with the Empire State Building back in the 1940s, 1945, a B-25 hit the Empire State Building. I was trying to go to Newark.
This is clearly deliberate.
That chilling, horrible scene that we just saw, I think, is attack not just in the World Trade Center, but at the very soul and the very heart of our nation, John.
Kai is in the WNYW chopper and has perhaps the best view of this. Let's listen into Kai's narration now.
Indeed, were two planes. We did see one. To get into the area.
You wonder, these are all the things that they're going to have to be answered. How could large planes just that quickly out of control from our local
presumably commercial aircraft? Now we can't speak to the first one, but that second aircraft that
being raised, how could two aircraft get in there so close? Well, if two want to take their planes anywhere, and we don't have anti-aircraft skyscrapers. I mean, it takes a matter of seconds airport to the World Trade Center. A jetliner at full speed could cover that distance in a minute. Of pilots bent on destruction and like this. Now, again, folks, we have to remind you, 50,000 people work in these buildings each and every day. It happened right at 9 a.m. A good number of those folks were already at their desks. The toll is certainly going to be tremendous in this, and that's all that we can say about it. It is a tragedy. It is abhorrent. It is disgusting. But
John, you have to. I'm, wondering: are these pilots terrorists themselves? Are there terrorists in the cockpit who are holding guns to a pilot's head? Did they?
I can't imagine.
You can speculate completely about how this happens, because obviously it takes a lot of training and expertise to fly a complicated craft, whether it's a Boeing 737 or a small. Little Cessnas and little Pipers, so there is you have to wonder and raise what possibility going on in the cockpit.
All right,
they are intent, or if they're hijackers intentionally doing this.
A lot of questions still to be answered. Let's listen in again to Kai Simonson from.
Can handle both in that confined space without a tremendous
no
stiff
matter
toll.
how much how much you try to prepare for, until it actually happens, it's just not the same thing.
Again, you're looking at a live picture where shortly before 9 o'clock this morning, and then shortly after 9 o'clock, planes apparently deliberately crashed into the buildings